I've been noticing a weird thing lately.
Hmm.
So on Twitter, right?
Already
I've
lost
been
me, but carry
This is
on.
a terrible. Yeah, it's a terrible start.
Yeah, I as always, get off Twitter. Don't be on
yeah,
Twitter.
yeah.
Delete
Look,
your account. It is literally it exists now purely for protecting white supremacists online. Like that's what Musk does. You can get banned for criticizing like open white supremacists on that platform.
yes, indeed, that is true. Get off Twitter. You'll be a better person than me if you do. But look, on Twitter, right? I'm
Mhm.
getting ads. I'm getting ads from like blue check accounts that are marked as ads, and they will be nothing but like trivia. I'll I'll get an ad
Hmm.
like I'll get an ad that's like a group of owls is called a parliament. and I'm and I'm like,
Thanks.
okay,
Okay.
what are you selling? Are you selling me a group of
You know what it
owls?
is? It's weird. It's weird. Musk fans just paying money to give him money.
It's like is it,
It's a
Yeah,
weird
that's
I don't
system.
I
probably
don't
it.
I don't understand. It's like I'll see. I saw another one. I saw another one today that was like dolphins give each other names and answer to each other. It's like that's
At
cool,
least,
I guess.
at least when it happens on Tumblr, you know that they're doing it for like sick freak reasons. Like they're not
They're doing
doing
it for
it
the
to be
sport.
Elon.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not doing it for
Tumblr's a space
Elon.
that is there to fuck with every corporation that comes on it as soon as possible.
Yeah, provided
What's
provided that the
the sick?
CEO is okay with you being trans on Tumblr.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah,
hasn't
fuck
hasn't he been
I don't
having
know how
like
the situation has
a
happened.
normal one?
How can
He's
like
been having what we call a little cis people get weirdly obsessed with trans women and then act really weird about us
does he not know where he is?
because he has the most cis fragility possible.
I'd like to believe that when this happened, when Matt of Tumblr
Oh my God,
CEO
it was so
fame
funny.
decided to have a heated gamer moment about a trans woman on the website, Elon Musk heard that and went, I cannot let another CEO of a social media website sound more divorced online than me. And that's when he made the announcement. That's when he made the announcement that he's going to get rid of visible likes and reblogs on all posts on Twitter.
Because he was tired of getting ratioed.
It's like
That
every
makes
single
total
decision
sense.
every single decision he makes is because someone has personally weaponized some part of this website against him.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
gonna
no,
get rid of
it
community notes at
is.
this point.
It
Every
is
single
his-
decision he makes is
his-
because he's a little piss baby, and also it is specifically to make my job as a podcast host harder. Thank you for making it harder to specifically find and contact people to appear on my podcast. Twitter. Anyway, hello, and welcome to Video Gems, the podcast where it is very easy to contact people to get in.
What does that even mean?
I love how every week.
What?
I'm not kidding. Every week, every time we've recorded, Dark Fry's just gotten progressively more and more angry about losing Twitter as a way to contact people for the podcast.
I mean,
I hate it.
It's actually Dark Fry. It's worse than me bringing up Pathologic at this point.
I am your host, Dark Fry. And I am here with my co-hosts, Harry from Video Games Are Bad and Aronok. And special guest.
and special. I mean, I don't have to be
And
here if it's a
Aronok
bummer, but
sigh.
Look, I'm just really from the fact I did not rehearse this intro at all, and I'm just not I do not have a flow for it. Anyway, we have Vivian. We have Vivian from
Aladrin.
From the YouTube channel Vivian Aladrin. Did I say that right?
Absolutely right. You got it.
Nailed it.
Okay, wow, first try. Anyway, Vivian, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Vivian Alatrin. I am a media critic on YouTube for some reason. I also write music and short fiction. Uh, I care an unreasonable amount about art and video games in specific, and it's really nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank
Oh,
you
it's great to have
for
you.
saying that it's nice to be here. That's very nice of you to say. So I didn't know you write music. Actually, I didn't. I just didn't know that.
I mean, I
It's
haven't
cool.
for a few years, but I'm trying to get back into the swing of it. Uh, it's
Oh,
been hard
same.
to find it's just been hard to find quiet places to practice is the thing.
Mm.
I've been using a practice room at my school once a week to relearn how to read sheet music and stuff. It's challenging, but the biggest problem is just the weird embarrassment of being in a kind of public space and not being good at something publicly. That
Yeah.
sucks. But
I think it's also worse when you've been good at it in the past.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's hard to get back. I've been meaning to get back to playing piano more. There's keyboard behind me, and I just struggle to find the motivation sometimes.
Yeah, but
I'm incredibly musically illiterate, so when if someone had displays even an iota of musical knowledge or skill, I am endlessly impressed. So, if you want to feel good about yourself, play music in front of me and I will shower you with praise.
it's my secret weapon. I never want to feel good about myself. That's weakness by another
Now you
name.
listen here. I have I have a no self-deprecation rule. It is very strictly enforced in this podcast.
Oh, I
I
didn't
will
know
throat
that.
chop you if you do it again.
Fair enough. I
So, Vivian, what?
Dark Fry is very
hold on,
aggressive
wait.
about self love. If you are not doing self love, Dark Fry will
It's mandatory
nothing
self-love.
personal kid appear behind you and karate chop.
Wait, okay, but I do have to ask. You've seen my Persona 3 video, right?
Yes.
So
Yes,
and then you made the
it's
conscious decision to invite me
It's
on
the
here.
video.
Yes.
Okay, I just
It's
making
the
sure that
video
we're
we're
It's a
going to
bit of a
talk about in a
clash.
bit.
We're gonna work around it.
Yeah, yeah. It's like we're building up to it. We'll get there. So, Vivian, what kind of videos do you make?
You made any cool
So-
videos lately, Vivian?
Do I make any cool videos? I assure you,
Okay.
this month's video is not going to be cool. But I usually do videos mostly on video game analysis. I do occasionally talk about musicians that I like. I did one on Patricia Taxon. I did one on Owen Pallett. I have plans down the pipe this year to make a video that's I want to make a documentary about luxury apartments because I'm living in a luxury apartment right now and it doesn't have a kitchen counter. So I think that they're a scam, and I want to try to figure out what on earth is happening with that.
Oh, yeah,
It'll
you
be
did
very
mention
It doesn't
exciting.
that.
have a kitchen counter?
No,
So what does
we
it
had to
have?
make one. Does it have?
I
It has a
can come-
really. It has
I
a
can
really
come and
deep
count your
kitchen sink.
kitchens for you if you want.
No, Doug, that's bad joke. Shutting that one down.
What it has is that it has a lobby on the first floor, so you know that it's a luxury apartment.
It's a luxury apartment. How else would you know?
Well,
Wait,
the
like
sign
the
out front.
apartment? The apartment has a
The
lobby?
sign that says it's a luxury apartment.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I mostly do videos on video games. I think is probably my bread and butter. I do a lot of Final Fantasy videos. I do videos on Fire Emblem from time to time. I have made a couple of videos about the Persona series. Hint, hint.
Dun, dun, dun.
I actually have plans this year to do one on Persona 1.
Good luck making a video on a game that doesn't exist. There is no Persona 1.
I shouldn't tell
obviously.
you that I've beaten it 3 times already, right? I shouldn't say that.
That's impossible. Persona. We all know that the Persona series starts
Yeah,
with
it starts
3.
at 3.
Yeah, it starts at 3.
That is, you are espousing propaganda right now.
Well, I am a propagandist, so that does track.
Vivian, it kind of sounds like your YouTube channel is almost sort of scientifically engineered towards Dark Fry. It's got all of the things that he likes.
So here's the thing, right?
Propaganda,
Yes,
persona discourse. Yeah, the gang's all here.
so it has all of my vices are in that channel, like yeah, persona discourse, media criticism discourse,
Yeah.
Fire
What do you think
Emblem.
about the Trails of series of games?
I have not yet played them. I know I need to. I'm
lower
sorry.
down now in the Dark Four ranking. That is.
So that's a fun fact. I message Vivian almost daily to play them. I'm
It's
very
true.
annoying about it, and I will continue to be annoying about it.
It's on the list. I just have to get all of my work done.
Just imagine the text conversation. You know that meme where it's like a blank. It's like blank tonight.
Oh yeah,
tonight,
of course.
Me.
Yeah.
It's just that message. But it's like Trails of tonight. Trails of tonight.
Trails tonight, Queen.
Trails of tonight, Queen.
Trails tonight, Queen.
Trails of Tonight. Is that one of the games?
Trails
Hold
of
on, is
Tonight.
that one of
No,
It must be,
actually,
it must
the
be.
next game is called Trails Through Daybreak.
Ooh.
So
Oh.
technically,
So the prequel,
yeah, it's
Trails of the Night.
it's gonna be really good. Okay, so Vivian,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be honest. The reason I invited you to the podcast is so that we can talk about Persona 3.
Yes.
And your video about it, which is at the time of recording, is your most recent video.
Yeah. Came out a couple weeks
Cool.
ago. Pretty proud of it.
Yeah, you
It's
should
really
be
good.
proud of it. It
So
came out
I've
on
seen,
Persona
but
3
it's
Day.
really good.
It did. That was deliberate. I had it finished at the end of February, and I left it as a Patreon exclusive until March 5th, specifically.
Hell
because
yeah.
It's
That's a
Persona
real
3 Day.
Persona 3 fan thing to do. Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
I wish I had that foresight with Persona 4, but unfortunately, Persona 4 doesn't have important days in it.
I mean, let's be honest, Persona 4, it doesn't deserve to be released on any day, really.
Yeah.
Harry was messaging Darkfra and I just before the podcast saying, now that I'm thinking about it, Persona 4 is a bad
It
game.
okay, sucks.
Look,
Well-
we promised. I made a sort of promise to myself that we wouldn't talk about Persona 4 too much on this episode. Instead, we would be talking about Persona 3, the best game ever made.
It's
And
good,
Aronok,
right?
you're just going to have to play along here.
You're just going to have to
Okay.
trust us,
I
okay?
do-
Just
I do
go
wanna
along
say,
with
'cause I
everything that we
have-
say.
I have basically no knowledge of the Persona games, so you guys should just make up whatever the fuck you want, and I would totally believe you.
Okay,
but
before we continue...
I wanted to
sorry.
say that Vivian's video worked really well for me, and I have no context. So if you're listening to the podcast
good.
and you're not sure if you want to go watch it, I really enjoyed it. I found it really, really valuable to watch, and I don't have context in the series, so you should still go watch it, even if you don't like Persona or have no idea what Persona is.
Well, thank you. That's really sweet.
You were gonna say something, Vivian?
Oh, I don't have to anymore. I was going to say, like, what's the policy on spoilers? But if you've seen my
Oh.
video, then
Oh,
never
that's a
mind.
good point.
I'm gonna say that I think
It's been out for
I
like a
think
month
spoil
now, right?
it. It's an old game.
Well, yeah, it's been out for longer than a
Dark
month.
and
thinking
Harry
about
know this, but I fully vehemently hate spoiler culture. I think it's
Yeah.
absurd.
Okay, me too. Thank
Because
God.
I think like you can't have conversations about art. You can't
Mhm.
without accepting that you're gonna get spoiled in it. And I don't think that art conversations should be limited to only talking about it in a way where you don't talk about the spoilery things, because that's the stuff that's the meat that you
Yeah.
want to get into.
Here's the thing. Persona 3 is good even if it's completely spoiled for you. In a
art
weird
should be
way,
that way.
in a weird way where other games aren't, because so Persona 3 follows a calendar system. So like you
Oh, it's so good.
so
Sorry.
you progress
I'm just
through,
gonna say
you
that every
progress
now
through
and
the game day by day.
Like
and-
Logic.
Yes. And
It's just like Pathologic.
It's
No, there
exactly
was
like
like a dozen.
Pathologic.
There was like a dozen things in the video where it's just like, I'm gonna have to resist the urge to bring it up. I'm done with I promise Darkrai will stop mentioning that.
So yeah, Persona 3 goes through like a day by day sort of system, and it's a mechanic in the game. The passage of time is used as a mechanic in the game, and as Vivian points out so well in the video, like this functions as a way to completely remove agency from the player, and it's a big thing of what Persona 3 is about. And even if you know the events of the story, even if you like know which of the people you live in the same dorm with are going to end up betraying you, for example,
Yeah.
you still have to live every single day with them, knowing that, like, that's in the back of your brain, and daily life just continues. You have to continue the game incrementally, day by day, and that's just what makes it so good. That calendar system enhances the story in so many ways that it literally takes an hour-long video to talk about it. Uh, so, yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's a meme that's pretty popular in Persona circles about Persona 3 where they just kind of like quote there's a moment in the game where, like, you know, a terrible thing happens, and then the very next day you'll just get a little text box. It's just like, yesterday was a terrible tragedy, however you must still go to school today.
Yep.
And that kind of sums it up.
Oh,
And
that's
like,
the most
It's
realistic.
great.
That's
Yes, it'll literally say like a friend of yours literally dies, and then on the next day it'll be like, you are still recovering from yesterday, you must go to school.
yeah.
I'll be honest, I
Yeah.
was kind of like asleep at the wheel when I was playing Persona 3. I was like, you know, it's big. And I think that's kind of like the point, right? It's kind of like a slog for the first half of it, because it's just like day in, day out doing the same thing, not really sure where you're going. And
Mhm.
then Shinjiro dies. Like,
Yeah.
it's pretty much like halfway through, right? Or maybe a little bit further on. And from then I'm like, oh, damn, this is actually really good. This is like one of the best games ever made. Like, I kind of feel like almost like the first half of Persona 3 is kind of like intentionally sort of set up that way almost. Where
Yeah.
there's like this kind of like aimlessness to it.
I think so. In a lot of like the conversations I've been having since Reload came out, one of the things that I was really worried about with Reload is that they're going to try to like Persona 5 the hell out of Tartarus and try to make it like this big, intricate, exciting, super like engaging thing. And it's definitely engaging. It's definitely like more fun than the original Persona 3's Tartarus, but it also still kind of sucks a little bit. And I think that that's really important for the game, because like making all of these things kind of frustrating you constantly is why the balance of the game works as well as it does. Like, it can't really be a game that gives you a whole lot of agency and makes you feel really empowered, because it would undermine everything that the game stands for. And I was really happy that they kept that alive in Reload.
Yeah, a lot of things in Reload, a lot of things that suck in the original Persona 3 also kind of suck in Reload.
Kind of suck in Reload.
And that's the correct decision.
Well, it shows a purposefulness and a willingness to engage with a wider variety of emotions than what is the most marketable. And I think a lot of people, when they encounter those types of things and they say it's bad, because they experience negative emotion, aren't thinking about it as a work of art and what it's trying to say. They're approaching it as like a roller coaster or going to a theme park, you know? Like, you're not... They're not
Persona
treating it
3
like a way to
Persona 3
experience
will
theme.
do that. It's a bit of an asshole. It's kind of like Persona 3 is an asshole of a game, and it will never happen again. There will never be another game like Persona 3. And
I mean,
it's unfortunate because like that game does not let you control your party members.
Yeah, the original.
You only
wild.
control in battle. You only control the main character, and all of the others are controlled by AI. And you can set them like you can tell them to like focus on healing, focus on attacking, or focus on knocking the enemies down. But that's all the control you have over them. They choose their own moves. You cannot control what moves their personas have. They have their own inventory. Like if you neglect to update their equipment, they will go and buy equipment themselves and equip it. So, and I read in an interview while researching the Persona 4 video, like I read in an interview with Atlas that happened after Persona 4 came out, and they were asked about this, and they said, yes, we did that because we wanted to make every party member feel like an individual person. That you don't control them. They make their own decisions. They have their own goals. They make their own choices and function differently. And it works very well because the cast doesn't really mesh well in Persona 3. They're more like coworkers rather than friends.
It's just like at the
Especially
start.
at the start.
It's like, hey, do you wanna join our group of fucking vampire hunters?
A little
It's gonna
bit.
be great. It's gonna be
Yeah.
great. Whereas like in like the other two, it's like you kind of it's all like sort of set out like it's fate or whatever. You know, these people run into these other people. So it's just like, hey, we're gonna go out at midnight with fucking swords and just beat the shit out of these like fucking
No,
blob
Persona
monsters.
3
gonna
is
be
like,
great.
hey, here's this 10-year-old kid. He can use a persona.
Let's give him a fucking spear.
So
I-
we're going to add him to our team. Whatever.
I think that aspect is a really interesting choice in terms of showing a certain design priority.
Mhm.
You know, like clearly that is a choice that goes against the general sort of industry views on what you're supposed to do for players, right? You're supposed to enable their agency and make them feel good, and et cetera, et cetera. But the priority there is the storytelling. The priority there is the characters. And I wish more games would risk things like that a little bit. And it's kind of sad that they removed that for the remake, based on what you're saying.
Yeah, it is something that I understand why they did it. I am kind of at odds with it because on the one hand, like as like a philosophy in a perspective that you want to have in a video game, I think that the original's idea of not giving you control or like meaningful agency over the party is important and like complements the theme really well. But also as a person who physically has to play the video game and like has deep-seated visceral hatred, like memories of the party AI just being completely garbage. Just as a fun fact, so the very first time that I beat the game, my party was myself, Yukari, Mitsuru, and Aigis. And
the harem.
You don't have to say it like that, but like, okay.
The game calls it that.
Well, anyway,
Jesus.
moving on. So one of the things about the final boss of the game is that she has like a final attack or like a special attack that deals random status elements to the party. And one of those is charm. And if a party character is charmed, they will either attack another party member, or if they have a healing move, they will use that healing move on the enemy. Unfortunately, every single one of my party members has a healing move that fully restores the target's HP to max. So I'd get the boss down to like under half its health. It would cast Night Queen. It would like charm one of my party members, and I didn't have a move to like cure their charm in between because I only have one move per round of combat. Yep. And they would heal the boss back up to full. They did it like 3 times. The boss fight took me 2 hours. It was miserable. So on the one hand, thematically coherent, good that they did that. On the other hand, if I had to deal with that when I was playing Persona 3 Reload, I think I wouldn't have survived.
A lot
No,
of
yeah,
it is
it,
kind
it
of
is
like
just
conceptual,
it is
right?
just better. It is just a better game when it lets you control
Feeling
the
wise,
party
it
members.
is.
Yeah.
I think there's a balancing point you could have between those two things. I think if you either made controlling them more of a diegetic element of you, they are their own people, but you know, you can communicate with other people. There
Yeah,
are other
Yeah.
things that you could do. I think you could definitely have a system where rather than direct control, there is indirect control, and relationships are directly related to how likely they are to listen to you. So you emphasize those links elements, the social elements of the game
Yeah.
through the combat really well.
Yeah, that's something that Persona
without
4
the
and
pure
5 go
frustration.
more into, actually.
Mm,
Like, so
interesting.
Persona 5, like the social links sort of they have like more of a direct impact on the sort of dungeon crawling parts of Persona, whereas Persona 3, it's a little more limited.
There's also that really good Persona 4 meme where it's like, if you reach a certain rank in Persona 4 with a party member, that party member will then have a chance to jump in before you take damage and take the hit for you.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
like, so there's a meme that's like, you are now friends with Yosuke. Yosuke will now die for you.
Okay, so it goes a little bit deeper than that. I'm sorry. I have a weird amount of knowledge about the series. Please don't judge me too much. So the thing about that is that in the original Persona 4, that was a mechanic that was introduced at rank 1 of the social link. The
Yep.
moment that you start a social link with any of your other party members, they will take lethal damage for you once per round of combat, like
Really?
once per battle. They changed that in Golden because probably because it would be really, really silly to be like, yeah, we're just starting to like get to know each other as friends. Anyway, if somebody tries to kill you, man, I got you. Like, so they made that, I think, like a rank 9 thing. Like they
Yep.
kicked that count all the way down the street. I didn't get
Yeah, that
into it
makes
in my
more
Persona
sense.
4. I didn't get into it in my Persona 4 video. But like, I don't think that the game is very good. I do think that the original Persona 4 is much better than Persona 4 Golden. Because it had the balls to be mean to you.
In Golden is fucking terrible. The just any of like the parts in Golden, it's just like, man, what's going on?
The most interesting
this
thing about
about?
Persona 4 is its combat. It knew that it's like the one area that they can make you really better than the original Persona 3 by making the combat more like dynamic, giving you more agency over your party, all of these things, right? They knew that they could win out in Persona 3 in that one field. So the combat in Persona 4 is great. And then in Persona 4 Golden, they're like, well, it's a little bit too hard, the original Persona 4. So let's just kind of make it a lot easier for everybody. So like now you have in dungeon SP recovery, you have like wild cards that give you all sorts of stuff. You can farm money like nobody's business. It's a game that's like built to be extremely generous and easy to you. And to wrap it back, around, I'm glad that Reload, while Persona 3 Reload definitely was easier than original Persona 3 in a lot of ways, I liked that Persona 3 Reload still had a little bit of a bite to it. Like there was still occasionally random like enemy encounters that could completely clean me out if I didn't get like the upper hand on them immediately.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
still
the
died a few
Tartarus,
times.
the Tartarus bosses were still assholes, and I like that.
Yeah,
Vivian, I have a question for you.
What's up?
And I know this has been like asked in like the Persona spheres. It's kind of an interesting one. Do you think that Persona 4 and 5 would have benefited from not having the calendar system that Persona 3 has, or like the deadline system?
Persona 4 definitely. I think that one of the bigger problems with the pacing of Persona 4 is that if you have a murder mystery going and the answer for like 5 months out of that murder mystery is you find a new person, you go, hey, do you know anything about the killer? And they go, nope.
No.
And then you go, okay, cool. And then just another month has to pass with like no new leads.
But that's good though. But that's
Okay.
good though.
That is actually kind of incoherent as a murder mystery plot.
Like
no,
yeah, look, I'm going to be honest with you. If you do get into Persona, just don't play
Persona 4 on this thing.
Okay.
On this,
I'm willing to hear you out.
defend Persona 4. Okay. because similarly to Persona 3, the fact that they're just a bunch of teenagers who don't know what they're doing. That's the whole point. So the only way they really can get leads and make any progress is to save the people who get targeted by the
God,
thing.
Dojima fucking sucks. Sorry, I just had that thought. Sorry,
What
it
sucks?
just came out.
What sucks?
Dojima.
Oh yeah,
fucked up.
Dojima sucks. It's actually
guys-
the part. It's actually the part of my Persona video I'm writing now. Right now,
Fucking sucks so much.
I'm
Have you
in
seen
the
that?
I'm in the police section
Oh, it's so
of the
Have you
video.
ever seen that clip of Joseph Anderson playing through the game? And he's like at rank 10 of Dojima, and like it's the bit where like the cops want Dojima to go out and catch a bad guy or whatever.
Of a teenager.
Joseph Anderson's
It's just
like-
a random teenager.
Joseph Anderson was like, I would do that, but instead I'm going to spend more time with my daughter because I've gotten character development. And then just like the next frame, he just goes off. And
Yeah, no,
catch the
that
teenagers.
that
It's so
scene
good.
that scene. Okay, so the whole conflict between
We've learned
him-
nothing.
It's like, isn't that the whole point of the social link system?
Yeah, so Dojima's social link is built around the idea that his work is getting in the way of him being a father. Like Nanako's at home all day long. She's like 6 years old. He's all working all the goddamn time. She feels like he doesn't care about her. And then at the resolution of that social link, he's just kind of supposed to be like, yes, I need to be able to manage this balance better. Like I need to care for my family because they're important to me. And my obsession with trying to find my wife's killer is driving a wedge between me and the family that I still have, right? Good morals, good lessons. And then it is immediately
Classic
interrupted.
noir
Yeah,
murder mystery
absolutely.
stuff.
Like totally
Literally the most
fine.
open goal, right? In
Yeah.
terms of like writing a story, it's like it just makes sense. Okay.
You nailed it. Excellent. And then
job.
the police come in and go, hey, we found some kids who are like trying to steal from like a store. You have to stop us. You have to stop them. And he like goes, and then he like panics and he looks back at Nanako as if he's not sure what he should do in this situation. And Nanako is the little 6-year-old is the one who has to be like,
6
go do
years
your
old
job,
now.
Dad. Like, we
It's
support
okay
you.
There's a
that-
difference between not becoming obsessed with your job to the point of damaging relationships and just not doing your job.
Which okay, by the way, I should also point out that the place where Persona 4 takes place in is like this rural town where nothing happens. So
Yeah,
So-
it's true.
you have to ask, how is Dojima so goddamn busy all the time? And
It's
you
like,
find out
fucking
you
Midsummer
find out
Murders.
that it is completely self-inflicted. That he himself obsesses over his job because he wants to find the guy who killed his wife.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he Ryotaro Dojima walked so that Harry Dubois ran. There we go.
We did it. I think that's the title. Is that going to fit in the?
That's
I mean, we're
Sure.
talking about
Right.
Persona 3, right? We're still talking.
Yeah, we're supposed to talk about Persona 3. Which, by the way,
Look, I'm fine with this.
Speaking of the police, the only real commentary that Persona 3 has about the police is that the police station is your weapons shop.
Hey, kid.
So
Yeah.
you
Need some
buy
swords?
weapons from a cop who, as far as he's concerned, he's just selling these very real swords to a bunch of teenagers.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah, that's right.
He's a good guy,
just
though.
let that stew a bit.
Wild.
He's a
Hey,
good lad, that cop.
he's doing it for justice reasons. He said
Yeah,
that
he's
he's
doing
doing it because it's the right thing to do. So maybe cops aren't that
Does he
bad
know about
when
the
they
fantasy
sell
stuff?
illegal weapons to children.
He does. He kind of knows.
I just do want to point out that one of the weapon types in Persona 3 are guns that are modified to fit on a cyborg lady's hands.
Yeah.
You can buy those at the police station.
Yep.
including
Implies
like
they've got like an army of them out back.
one of her attachments is literally a grenade launcher. So just the fiction of a 16-year-old walking into a police station going, "Hey, I have like, I don't know, like
Give me the big one.
160,000 yen grenade launcher, please." Just walking out with a big suspicious box. I love it. It's perfect.
Yeah, and also that police station where all this, it's in a mall.
Yeah, they have a police
So-
station in a mall.
So,
Wait. You're buying guns from Paul Blart Mall Con?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, that's the title.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my god, that's kind of incredible.
It's good.
It's very good. It's a
You
good
can also
game.
you can also buy armor designed to fit on dogs
Yeah.
from the police officer.
Well, they have to protect the dogs from their own guns.
It's true.
That's true.
it-
Yes,
For
they
people in the
do.
audience who don't know, cops shoot their dogs more than pretty much anything else.
yeah.
Yep.
Their own dogs, not
It's
other
the-
dogs.
Well,
Their own
sometimes
dogs.
other dogs also, but
They shoot a lot of other dogs. They just really disproportionately kill their own dogs.
Every
Yeah.
now and then, H-Bomber guy reminds us of this fact just by posting it
Yeah, he
on
has
Twitter.
a
It's just like
yeah. He
they
has a
just
thread
keep
going.
shooting the dogs. They can't stop themselves from doing it.
It's
It's like, man,
shooting dogs is monstrous. Shooting
Don't
your
do that.
own dog?
Yeah, that's fucked. I don't know what's going on with that one.
Yeah. I'm writing like I mentioned earlier, I'm writing the police section of the Persona 4 script, which means
Oh, God.
detailing a lot of police stuff, and it's just, oh man.
part of me kind of wants to get Aronok to play Persona 3, and then immediately afterwards play Persona 4, just to see, just to like sort of, get the
If you
vibe check
buy
out
them
there.
for me, I will try to play them all the way
I'll-
through.
I'll-
Fuck it, Aronok,
See
I
if
will
they're on
buy
sale.
Persona 3 for you.
Yeah, famous last words on that
I'll-
one. I'm sorry.
I will literally buy you Persona 3.
I
I'll
think
do
you'd
it,
like
I don't
Persona
care.
3. I think you'd hate Persona 4. I think you'd
I think I'd
fucking
probably
hate
find,
Persona 4.
based
There's
on
so
the
much like
video-
problematic shit in Persona 4. It's awful.
No.
Oh yeah, I'd probably just be ranting to you two and
Yeah.
No,
it would be
here's
really-
Aronok is going to proofread my script of Persona 4 for Persona 4.
I'm sure I'll have some thoughts.
And yeah, she'll have some thoughts because
Yeah.
I've been rewatching Community, and like it's weird because Community, like half of it, I think is very much in the same way that it's always in Sunny in Philadelphia does, of like these are terrible people and we understand that,
Mhm.
but the other half is like this nebulous. I'm like, do you know that was bad? Do you know that was not an okay thing to say? Do you? I'm
Yeah.
genuinely unsure. And it's been such a weird rewatch for that because I think the show wants to talk about those things. I just don't think it always knows how to. And it results in a very weird, it's like trying to combat homophobia and also be homophobic.
yeah.
But fine.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
you're gonna have fun with Persona 4.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Basically
This
what
man
they're
is
saying,
gay
it's
and homophobic.
Those do exist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do.
I mean,
But I think if you're going to represent that, you need to represent it in the context of a mostly queer work of art.
yeah, I was gonna say Echo Project games, like that's their specialty. Like every villain of every visual novel that comes from those people is a homophobic gay. Like
They exist and they suck. I've had to deal with them in real life, so I'm like, I'm not on principle against that representation existing. I think it's just about how you handle it in the context. It's that thing of like, because almost all media has like queer murderers. If you just have a queer murderer and no other queer characters in a work of art, you're just reinforcing that view, and it's really, really bad. And it's kind of frustrating because it makes it so you can't really write like queer villains and things as easily. So I think it's really just about the context that's around it and how that specific character is handled. But I'm going to make a guess that Persona 4 does not handle it well.
Yeah, Persona 4 is
Well,
not
Okay, here's the thing.
You
Here's
have-
the thing about Persona 4, which I which I talk about. Persona 4 has so many almost slam dunks.
It's like
Almost slam dunks. Like
so close.
you are so close.
You imagine if it
to
was just like a
hitting
little gayer.
diamonds.
If it was just like a little bit gayer, like it'd just be so much better.
Like you
Of
are
most works of
swinging
art, that's true.
you are swinging a pickaxe, and you almost
It's
hit a
like-
diamond. You almost hit diamond, but instead you hit a landmine. It's
It's gonna be great.
it's so close. It's so close. And then you read a frigging dev interview from Atlas where I will read you verbatim what they said.
Having
Okay?
a normal one.
What's
Yeah.
a gay person?
What?
What's a gay? We've never heard of one.
No, here's what they actually said about the queer representation in Persona 4. They were asked about it, and this is what they had to say. Okay?
I'm ready
wait, let
and
me-
not ready
let
at
me-
the same time.
let
I've
me
never
find
been
it.
more ready and not ready for something
Okay,
in my life, Doc.
So, juvenile punks. I'm going to have someone read this in the video, and
just find
You
the
need a
most
voice.
clueless
Yeah.
person in
Yeah,
their entire life.
whoever. I'm sorry for the person that I will choose for
If you need me to do it because you
to-
don't feel comfortable making anyone else do it, I
to
can do it
read
in a
these
voice that no
words,
one will
okay?
tell it's me.
All right, here it is.
We're doing a better
Juvenile
flavors.
punks and boy detectives are stereotypes in Japanese anime and comics. We felt they were essential to include in our take on the mystery genre, especially the boy detective. But of course, doing straight versions of them would be boring and prevent the players from being pleasantly surprised. So we gave them mental weaknesses completely counter to their appearances.
Oh, don't say that. No.
Oh boy, I wasn't expecting
say that.
sadism. The sadism is so sudden and out of
It's- yeah,
left
it's like,
field.
whoa, hang
That
on.
and
is what they said.
Hang on, time out.
Did they just
Yeah, that's not
describe
great.
gayness as a mental weakness?
Sure
And
did.
and
It's a status ailment.
Listen,
and it's a status element. You've been inflicted with
status
gay.
effect
Inflicted with
distracted with
gay.
gay.
And okay. Also, in that same interview, they admit to queer baiting in Persona 4, in Persona 2.
Okay, but
So
okay, but what do they mean by that? Like, what? Hold on. No. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they are gay.
Weaknesses.
I'm sorry.
What do you mean by mental weakness?
No.
the
What do they
quote goes
mean-
on, by the way. But anyway,
What do they
go-
mean
go on,
about
then.
queer baiting in Persona 2 when they have like a canon gay relationship
Yeah, they
between the
are
main
gay.
character and
should I
and
read
his
you the
childhood
Persona 2
friend?
quote as well?
Yeah, all right. Go ahead.
I'm
Okay,
less ready for this now.
Is the first question in reference to Jun Kurosu in Persona 2, talking about like a queer relationship. We created that scene as an experiment to see how the players would react to this particular scenario. There is
They
a
were in the lab.
subculture. There is a subculture within female Japanese fans of anime and comics where they value romantic relationships between fictional male characters in a different way than in real life gay culture. We were wondering if we could satisfy those fans.
I refuse to believe
Okay,
people talk
that
like this.
hold on. Well, hold on. One, that's different than queer baiting.
Yeah.
Doing something for the Fujoshis, like
That's different.
That's different. Also, like that's not. I struggle to understand that because I understand that in Innocent Sin, in Persona 2 Innocent Sin, you have a choice, right? You could, at that point in time, you can choose to canonize a relationship. You can date Lisa, you can date Maya, you can date June, right? But
Yeah.
in Persona 2 : Eternal Punishment, if you don't transfer your data, like if you don't transfer your data from the first game to tell you which one you wanted to be your girlfriend or whatever, or boyfriend, they canonize Tatsuya and June. That's the default relationship. So
Yes.
what do they mean? Like, what are they talking about if they've canonized it in their own text? Like, that's
I don't
that's
know.
not queer baiting. That's just gay boys. I don't know what to tell you.
I think what they meant to say, or maybe it was poorly translated, as pandering. I guess.
Yeah,
Because
Yeah.
queer baiting, for people who don't know, because a lot of people really don't understand what the fuck queer baiting means and apply it to a bunch of things that it doesn't apply to. Queer baiting is very
Including
simply
me, apparently.
it's a marketing technique. And all it means is they pretend like they are eventually going to give you a queer romance. Very, 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 very purposefully teasing it and teasing it and teasing it and things, and never give it to you. Or do the supernatural, don't give it to you for like 17 seasons and then send them to super hell for being gay.
Yeah.
But like the queer baiting is very much about, like, we're not trying to represent queer people, but we are trying to court a queer audience while not pissing off conservatives. So they can deny anytime people are like, are they gay? But then they can also be like, hey, maybe they are, maybe they're not.
Maybe they're just European.
Who was it that gave that defense? It's an actual thing that happened. I can't remember.
Oh, I remember that story. I don't remember.
What?
Something, yeah.
There's an actual show
There's
that made
something
that
up
used
there.
that
Yeah,
for queer
yeah.
baiting.
Is she
They literally
gay?
said they're
Or
European.
European? This man is gay and European. I love that.
But getting around to just sort of queerness in general, I found watching the video, and I'd be curious what the people who've actually played the game's thoughts are. There is a lot there subtextually with most of the characters that can be read. I wouldn't say directly as a queer allegory, but maybe for an allegory of certain aspects of queer experience and feelings, including like the android girl. There's a lot there with the body stuff that
Yeah.
feels very trans.
Yeah, so I kind of blurred the lines there a little bit when I talked about Igus and kind of like my relationship of like coming to terms with, because I say at some point in the video that like when I was playing this when I was like a shitty teenager in high school, I thought that I was the main character and I wanted to be like a cool martyr and like, put my life to some sort of thing. But like growing up, I realized that I was Igus, who's kind of in this weird nebulous in between of somebody who clearly is alive in like a very tangible and meaningful way, but feels fundamentally at odds with society because she doesn't function the way that other people do. And
There's
yeah.
To me, it kind of reads as both neurodivergent coding and trans. Like, I don't know. There's kind of layers there.
Absolutely.
Physical disability aspects. It's one of those like nebulous allegory pieces.
And it's the kind of thing that I feel like only really comes out of a game that isn't like, this is going to sound weird, but like I don't think that they were explicitly going, we need to write Igus to write an allegory for like social minorities or anything like that. They did it because Igus has a very clear thematic function in the story, because if the story is about death and acceptance and like the fragility of life, having a meaningful counterpoint as something that will live eternally but can experience life as sort of like a weird outside looking in kind of thing is a meaningful thing to put into a story that's very like front and center about like grappling with grief and loss. But as like a knock-on effect, by just exploring the character more, they find these little particulars. This is why like her social link is so like touching and beautiful for a lot of people, myself included, is that like in order to really dig into this, beyond her just being like a thematic construct that they've like positioned in a story, they have to like reconcile with the fact that like simple tiny things about human existence is denied to her. A dog lashes out at her and at one point in her social link and bites her hand, but her hand's made of metal, so she doesn't feel it, and the dog hurts his mouth trying to bite her. So there's like that very visceral kind of tangible like disconnect of like, right, I'm not a person like you are.
It's the alienation effect, and and it's very specifically alienation as someone who is one of the only of their kind around, and that's why I think it becomes unintentionally emotionally evocative of things that are relatable. And it's not exclusively relatable to marginalized people, but I think it's sort of like the number of films that accidentally made themselves trans allegories by pulling metaphors from the Matrix. Like when you pull on certain thematic threads, or you pull on certain metaphors and allegories, you create these additional readings or you open the door to them. And it's just like how all time travel is able to be applied through a queer lens. This is something I've talked about. This is something that Abigail Thorne's talked about. This a few queer theorists have discussed in works. Just because of queer temporality and theories around that, you create a queer experience of time. You thus create a way of applying critical queer theory to that work of art. I think androids and contemplation of humanity. We see this like with Data from Star Trek, often being read as autistic, or these things where they didn't intend it at all, but because of the themes and because of the purpose of what they're exploring, you end up with something that's very resonant with certain experiences. Yeah. I bet there's one line in the video that really stood out to me, where you said, I hurt people when I care about myself, and I hurt people when I don't care about myself. And I thought that was a really poignant expression of a frustrating emotional element of transition.
Yeah.
And dealing with mental illness, because I've definitely had that experience as well. Like I've had to cut family members out of my life. And from their perspective, I'm the one that's hurting them. Regardless of the validity of it or whether I was right or wrong, which I was right. Everyone who knows that situation knows that. But like, it is a frustrating thing to deal with, where caring about yourself, looking after yourself, doing what's best for you, upsets, disturbs, negatively affects in some way other people, regardless of whether them feeling that way is right or wrong.
Yeah. So with that line, I was kind of talking about like a weird sort of experience that I was having, like with my own kind of interiority. I struggle with self-esteem issues. Obviously, I'm some exotic flavor of neurodivergent. It makes communicating with people kind of difficult. I've gotten pretty good at it. Not to brag. See, I'm balancing the scales, Darkfry. See, I'm balancing there.
Brag.
Tenuous balance.
Brag more.
But the issue that I had, the issue that I noticed recently, was that the default answer of like when I feel like, oh, I've blundered some way conversationally, or I've like hurt somebody, or like in order to like care for my needs, I have to tell people, no, I can't hang out with you. No, I can't talk right now. I have to do work. No, I can't do this. I need to sleep, or something like that. My default answer to that is always like, well, okay, but I can't gauge how other people will take these things, and I don't know if I'm like one denial away from like crossing a line in this friendship. So I have to just kind of like shelve my own needs, because I know myself better than I know other people, and I can get over being mean to myself. I don't know if people can get over me being mean to them. And then recently, the reason why the other side of that line came out was recently I noticed that there was a situation where that actually ended up causing more harm within one of my friendships than taking care of myself. Like not having the confidence to like actually communicate with this person made it more, like made the situation worse. So it's a conundrum. Like you're like I'm stuck here kind of like this is a puzzle where like I genuinely, this lack of understanding and adequately like being able to communicate with people has put me in a strange puzzle where I don't know the answer. And I thought that like just defaulting to like, oh, well, I'll just like, put all of the burden on myself would just kind of get me through it. I've learned pretty recently that that's not always the case. So I don't know. It's difficult.
I've definitely had that experience as an autistic person with and I have chronic fatigue due to my chronic illness. So I'm regularly tired and regularly I don't know. It's like there are times when I go, and thankfully the camera doesn't make it look like this, but like I often look quite sick just because of the chronic illness, and I'll go out and like make people really concerned, but I'm also like, if I don't spend time with them or things, then at some point, like what point do they just stop asking? So I really relate.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that that spoke to you. I'm I'm working on it still. You know, I'd like to just be like, that was the past. I'm better now. But you know, it's a
No,
process.
it's always a process.
Yeah.
I know I'm better than I used to be. I'm much better about, taking breaks or resting when I need to, instead of burning myself out, which is worse in the long run than like, you end up doing worse if you overwork yourself and burn yourself out completely than if you take some rests. And I think a lot of those things are balance.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't
Don't
burn
do that.
yourself. Don't burn yourself out.
Yeah,
And
I mean, if
guess-
there's sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, you go first.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, if there's a lesson to be learned in understanding kind of like the thematic hearts of Persona 3, just to kind of, wrap it back in here, it is that like being on the journey itself is meaningful. You know, I talked in the video that like the thing about the culmination of Persona 3 with the main character dying, martyring himself, isn't like, oh yes, that's the point of life, is to like give yourself entirely over to something. Like his life wasn't important because he died to save the world. His life was important because he lived, you know? And
That
his
line really-
experience, and his experience touched other people in ways that reach beyond him. You know, one of the beautiful things about the answer is, again, I said it earlier on. We were talking about this earlier on. That the answer was like their second chance to unkill the main character, and the answer culminates in the party having like to radically accept that he is gone, and that they need to live their lives. Like the
Yes.
reason that he's gone is so that they can live, not so that they can sit here and mourn for him.
There's a big chunk of my next video that talks about just having to accept bad things that have happened, and it's about a lot of things. Like it is about the characters accepting death. So indirectly, I'm sort of indirectly, not directly talking about like my own experiences with that, but I was also talking about sort of having to accept that like if I could go back and time travel and transition when I was younger, or I wouldn't change things, because yes, I'd be able to get rid of a lot of really negative, bad things that happened to me in some ways, but at the same time, like that would mean giving up on all of the good things too. And I think it's very, very hard to accept. It's not saying the bad things that have happened to you are good or okay or made you better as a person or anything like that. It's more just having to accept that like that is what happened, and you can't change it. And that was a part of the video that I found really valuable as a conversation, because I'm editing that section for a second time after my computer's operating system died.
Oh, God.
All of my DaVinci timelines are gone. Like a bunch of things, just catastrophe.
I'm so sorry.
And yeah, so I'm redoing, and I don't know, there's something about having to re-edit a section about accepting failure and accepting mess ups. That has been weirdly like, it's like basically me sitting down depressed as I'm feeling much better today. But like last week I was extremely just having the worst time, and it was just me sitting there telling myself with my own video, like, hey bud, you gotta accept that this is what's happened. You gotta deal with like, here you are, and that sucks, but you have your feelings, and now you gotta get back up. You gotta get back up and keep moving.
You gotta go to school.
You gotta
Yesterday
go to
was a
school.
terrible tragedy. Yeah.
Like that really does sum it up. I think a lot of life is yesterday was a terrible tragedy. You have to go to school.
I mean,
Like and
not,
schoolwork, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's just
not to get too political or anything, but it does really feel, especially in days such as these, like living in the US, it feels like every day is like some fresh news story where it's like, oh yeah, the country is not going well. Like things are not going well. And I can sit here and like have a depressive crash and just like break down and go like, what even is the point? or you can go, well, like, all right, like I have to go to work, like, and that just has to also exist somewhere in my brain, that, you
Yeah.
know.
And it is important to take those times to feel things and let go of those emotions and stuff healthily, but wallowing in it's not going to do you anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Kenomata has to go home. You know, he can't just stay out there in the alley forever.
Yeah.
Goddamn Ken.
Listen, I love Ken. I was in the trenches in the early years of Persona 3's like popularity, and I don't know if any of you here have like recognized this as like video game subculture stuff. There's a lot of gamers out there who hate kids in video games.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
because they hate kids in general.
well, maybe. I mean, I've been trying to work on like a theory about this, right? Because they like some kids. They like Chrono from Chrono Trigger, right? He's a kid, but like he's rad, right? He gets a sword and he does things and he's cool.
But Chrono doesn't really strongly feel like a kid in a lot of ways, even just like visually. You know what I mean?
Well, he feels like a Toriyama character, so
Yeah.
you know, he looks like Goku, and that's fine. I like Goku. We all like Goku. But like, they don't like kids that feel too much like kids. You know, I've had this problem. You know, one of the big torches that I bear forever is that I think Final Fantasy 13 is grotesquely underrated as a game, and I think that it's really wonderful.
Yes.
And one of the big criticisms is that everybody hates Hope. And Hope is this like 14-year-old who like watches his mom die violently and like gets obsessed with this revenge plot against one of the party members, but he's 14 and he kind of like chickens out from it several times because he's, you know, grief-stricken and a child.
14?
Yeah. And everybody hates him. Like all of the haters for Final Fantasy 13 are like, oh, this kid sucks. And it's like, he's a child. Like,
this is something I discussed in my section and some of Turb's sections. In Turb's Spider-Verse video, which I co-wrote, and I performed one of our chapters, but we really did write it together. Where specifically in the chapter that I was talking about like there's this weird form of hate that really, really gets directed at Gwen, and I called it one of the classical blunders of media literacy, being normal about a teenage girl. like people seem incapable or unwilling to treat teenagers like teenagers. And I don't know, maybe it's because I worked as a coach for a very, very long time, and I, you know, actually treat teens like human beings. Wild concept. And I've known so many, but I find it so funny when people encounter well-written kids and teens, and those kids and teens don't actually, you know, operate in a perfectly, you know, rational, whatever that means, way in complex, traumatic, messed up situations. And I'm like, because they're traumatized teens. Like,
it's so weird, especially because that can be extrapolated out a lot. Like I try to think a lot about like who is allowed to have complex failings as a character, and predominantly, and I hate to like, I don't know, I feel this feels like very old school, this feels very feminist frequency, but like predominantly like cishet white guys in fiction are allowed to be like tragically flawed characters.
Yes. I mean,
Walter White, you know.
No, but this is a well-examined, well-discussed element in feminist media literacy for a reason, because it's true. People don't like characters that have complex feelings or negative traits that don't fit into a very narrow set of identities. So, I mean, you know, complex queer characters, complex Black characters, complex women, like any, and especially any intersection of marginalized identities, people do not like that, and, you know, decide that they're the most evil person ever. But then, like, you know, the most villainous white dude ever, they're like, he's not really that bad, he's a little misunderstood.
Yeah.
Like,
if his wife wasn't so annoying, it would be okay.
Oh, Jesus
That
Christ.
still happens though. Like the number of people that were defending Cyril Karn from Andor on both the Jesse's Andor video that I helped write and Lady Knight's Andor video that I helped write. Like, I've seen comments. I'm like, that is literally. He's literally a member of he's a fascist wannabe who's a bit of an incel, and you're like, he's just really misunderstood. Really, it's all his bitch mom's fault. And I'm like, whoa, okay, let's unpack that one. Let's take it back a second.
I mean,
In fact, let's not even unpack it. Get the fuck out of here.
yeah, you can go. That's fine.
But this
no,
is like a frequent thing if you examine how fandoms respond to groups of characters. Like, it's really telling. A flawed woman is the biggest, evilest person ever. A flawed man is so complex.
I mean, people hate Yukari in Persona 3, and her gravest sin is that she can be kind of mean sometimes.
That is literally like
this is
like, that's it. She's just mean, like, sometimes. Not even all the time.
God forbid a teenage girl is ever mean in any piece of media ever, in any way or capacity. That makes them, like, people fucking hate those characters. Someone can be like, yeah, I know that Evil Man, like, murdered 50 people and stuff, but she was mean one time, so she's actually worse.
Yeah, especially in the answer where Yukari is freaking great. She's the best part of the answer. Because she's written extremely well. But people hate her because she dares to be a woman that expresses grief in a slightly aggrieved way.
Yeah, apologies that she's not...
Literally, God forbid women do anything.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, like, sorry that she's not Irina from the first part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, tragically mourning the loss of her husband in, like, a beautiful, sweeping sort of way. Like, no, she's ugly about it. She's grief-stricken. Yeah. He died before she could even say goodbye to him in Aegis's arms, and Aegis gets his power, and she doesn't understand what has she doesn't understand what went wrong. Like, she's like, why am I stuck here with this constant reminder of this person who's not here anymore that I cared about this much? And she's now the new leader, and when we're given the answer of, like, how to get out of this situation, she doesn't know what to do, and it just, like, makes Yukari snap, and she's like, what is happening? Like, what do you mean you don't know what to do? Like... So,
and it's understandable. That's writing good characters means writing flawed, real human beings. Because genuinely, find me a single human being that
Persona 4 is terrible at. But anyway,
and
I mean,
so
it sucks.
An example of this kind of general phenomena, just that I've been thinking about a lot lately, because my friend Ruby, who we've had on the show, Codex Entry, Ruby did a video on End of Eva that's really good and everyone should go watch. And so because of that, I went and rewatched the Evangelion TV series, and then I was like, I'm going to watch the movies now. Because I've never watched the movies, so I just didn't feel like any need to, because the TV show's really good, and the ending's good, actually, and I don't understand why people don't... Like, 25 and 26 are not that complicated to understand. They're really straightforward thematically, but that's beside the point. Anyway, people being not normal about Asuka is, like, a perfect example of this. Like, she is a character canonically dealing with, like trauma-based disorders, like, this is a thing that is discussed in the show. She has trauma, she's dealing with it poorly. And, like, all of the characters, right? But people will defend Shinji in End of Eva, which, if you've seen End of Eva...
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that boy is not defensible in that one. I like Shinji in the show, and I like Shinji in the rebuilds, but Shinji in Eva is written to be horrifically awful. And people will still think that, like, oh, because Asuka's kind of rude to him, she's actually worse. And I'm like, he sexually harassed her! He's way worse! Holy shit!
Yeah, but,
And part of the point isn't like, it's not saying that Shinji's like incapable of being better or anything, because part of the point is that he could have been better, and we've seen the timeline where he was. Like, that's part of the point. But if he's gonna be better, then it's gonna be really fucking difficult, and because End of Eva is an attempt by the creators of the series to have a wake-up call to the audience that didn't understand the original series. It's very much the Dune Messiah to Dune, or Children of Dune to Dune. Where Frank Herbert walked out and said, "No, actually, Paul sucks. Do you get it yet?"
or the Dune 2 to Dune.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I
haven't
have
seen
heard
it
that Denis upped the explicitness of why Paul is wrong, because sorry, if I start talking Dune, I'll go way off.
I mean, well, to go broad with it, I think one of the big problems that we're facing, that I'm seeing a lot in like media literacy issues, especially online, where media literacy goes to die, I guess, is like there is a constant fear of like flawed problems in characters because everything has become imbued in our immortal soul. Like we're all terrified of like the quality of our souls and having that reflected in our fiction. So like that, you'll see a lot of media, especially remakes, which again is why Persona 3 Reload is such a like weird outlier in a lot of remakes that I've seen, because they just didn't accept doing doing that, where they will just scrub away a lot of the like trickier, murkier aspects of characters, because they don't want characters to really like have meaningful conflicts. You know, I obviously I want to talk about
the Avatar show.
I was going to say, like, I wanted to talk about this in FF7 Rebirth, but I'm going to stop myself for probably similar reasons that you stopped yourself from talking about Dune. But like the Avatar remake, like they tried to remove, they removed Sokka's like sexism arc in it because it's like a complex issue that he had to work on in the show,
and accidentally made the show more sexist because of it.
Well, yeah, that kind of does that is kind of how it works. Like in trying to like revise and like wash out all of the impurities of our history, whether it's artistic history, like literal history, whatever.
You're normalizing it.
Yeah, you're just kind of pretending that this couldn't be us, that there is something inherently good about us as people, and all bad things are inherently separated away from us. Like it's infantile. It's like the childhood behavior of trying to go like,
Yes.
No, I can't be wrong about things.
In the Stardust chapter of my next video, I talk about people incorrectly calling the film sexist for having some of the women characters flawed in a very specific way. That is this, and I find it interesting because like the central theme of the film is superficiality, and
What film?
So I like all of the characters connect to that theme to some degree, and the villains, both the women and the men, reflect each other really heavily in this aspect of being very superficial and stuff. But people have this like this weirdly shallow idea that if a marginalized person is flawed in any way, if a woman is flawed in any way, that must be. It's like it's not.
What film is this, by the way? Sorry.
Stardust.
Yeah.
Okay.
The film's not really important. It's more just like this general thing that I find very frustrating. Where, and I think you're touching on this as well. Like people don't want flawed characters. I don't know. I think there's a puritanism that has taken over a certain subsect of people's way of engaging.
I kind of
with art.
I blame CinemaSins.
Yes,
it's an easy one.
It's like
sure.
It's like characters for them is like at the bottom of the totem.
CinemaSins is like the Ronald Reagan of media literacy, huh?
Well,
but I would say, like CinemaSins, but also like film theory and game theory, and they're very shallow, bigoted ways of engaging with art. You know, like there's so but it's broader than that. I think it's just this general sort of idea.
MatPat has become this show's recurring villain.
Yes, there's an objective way of engaging with like art is objectively supposed to fit this specific mold. You know, never mind that mold is Western and you know, very conservative and things. It goes back to the Star Wars video that Jesse and I made about the monomyth, but like it is this thing of like it's supposed to fit a tidy structure. Characters are supposed to only be written in this one way. The good characters are supposed to be perfect, flawlessly good, like it's a childhood, like a book for babies.
Babies.
The bad characters are supposed to just be bad, and obviously bad with nothing good about them, and I just
This whole episode has been very, very helpful and productive for my writing of the Persona 4 video, because plot twist, like like a plot twist halfway through an H Bomber Guy video, it turns out that actually the video this whole time has been about media literacy.
that's all of my videos. All of my videos are
So,
plot
yeah.
twists. This is a lesson on media literacy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna do that too. I'm gonna yoink that idea. And we're reaching the end of this episode. So there's one last thing that I want to talk about, which is a bit of a personal story.
It's a good point, Darkfire. Persona 4 is really bad. We should talk about that.
That's not what I wanted to say. There's actually something about Persona 3 that I really want to share.
Okay.
I'll talk about this in the eventual video I make too, but Persona 3 is a very special game to me because I played it when I was like 12 or 11 or something like that. And ever since then, I've had this I've had this tradition of replaying it every single year.
Yeah, that's healthy.
Yeah, very healthy. It turned me into a normal person. But
that's why you make YouTube.
Yeah. This is what 12 replays.
It's like the Persona 3 or pathologic, really.
This is what 12 replays of Persona 3 does to a person, but
Persona 3 is your pathologic. Let's be real.
It is. I am not normal about it.
It's giving me Siddhartha vibes, but continue.
Yeah.
It's like the meme with that path, but both of the paths are like the dark ones.
The illusion of choice. Yeah.
The illusion of choice. All video essayists are either path or Persona build.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Darkfire. I'm ruining your very poignant monologue. Please continue.
So, it was just a happy accident that the game I chose to replay every year had a year-long calendar system, and was, very appropriate thematically to do so. I didn't choose that because of it. It just sort of happened. But yeah, it's probably one of the reasons that it's so special to me, and in a way that I can't really articulate right now. Like, I'll have to put a lot of thought into the words to express it. But I remember one of the most fucked up moments I've had that I will never forget is the moment where I realized, like 3 or 4 years ago, while I was doing my annual replay of Persona 3, the moment where I realized that I was older than every single character in the main cast now.
Mm.
And I was like, oh.
Shit.
Because, like, I started playing, when I played this game for the first time, I was Ken's age.
Damn.
It's fucked up.
I was the same age as the kid of the group. I was like 10 or 11. Something like that.
Yeah, and now I'm old. I'm closing in on Shuji Ikutsuki's age. And just like him, I'm turning into a nihilist. So, go on.
Nihilist is not good.
That was a joke for the record, but
Yeah, and the themes of Persona 3 are like so dark and mature. It's a bummer of a video game. And I when I was a kid, I always saw the characters as like really mature and adult. And then I replayed it every year, and I understood them more and more each time, and realized, oh, Actually, these were a bunch of teenagers that were tasked with literally defeating death. It's fucked up.
Yeah.
It's
There's
fucked
a
up,
lot of
man.
media about teenagers that feels way more fucked up when you've been an adult, especially when you've been an adult that's been in charge of like looking after teens.
Yeah.
Like, it definitely feels different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think one of the most useful vibes, and it's kind of the reason why Persona 4 and 5 had to change it, so that they had to give you like a father figure, so that way like just basic things of like, you know, this character is being taken care of by like some kind of authority figure. But like in Persona 3, like the kids' like day-to-day habits are just kind of like garbage, but they're just garbage in like that fun teen way. Like nobody cooks food in the original Persona 3, they're just constantly eating takeout. You know, when people are depressed, they're just like bumming out in their room and you can't talk to them. Or like, you know, it just feels very much like these kids are kind of unsupervised and just sort
Yeah,
of
I've
like
not thought about that.
Yeah.
coping
There
with
actually
whatever, like
is-
however they need to.
Yeah,
Like,
and
who's the
funnily
dad? There's no
enough,
dad.
and funnily enough, that feels very intentional because there is one character that does cook very well and takes this sort of father figure in the dorm secretly a bit, and that's
Mhm.
Shinjiro, and he's only around for like a month,
Yeah,
Mhm.
and then he dies.
yeah.
And then his absence feels even worse because of it, because uh, and it happens in Reload too. You'll have scenes where you can like cook with Shinjiro, and it's so nice, and
Mhm.
it's so great, and it's like,
And
oh,
also,
he's
Do
like,
it again.
and also,
yeah,
like, you know, if we're talking about like queer interpretations of Persona 3, you know, I feel like it is worth mentioning that Shinjiro and Akihiko have like
Oh,
that kind of
yes.
like boyhood friendship that runs really deep. And just to kind of like put an extra
oh,
fine
it
point
runs
on
deep,
it,
all right.
well, I mean, one, you know, obviously they call each other by nicknames, which like in Japanese culture is like their way of kind of like implying that they're very meaningful to each other. But also their personas are Akihiko as Polydeuces and Shinjiro as Castor,
Yep.
the Gemini twins. Like, so, you know, they're really kind of like laying it on a little thick.
They're
Yeah,
just really good
so
friends.
for context, because I actually researched Castor and Polydeuces for a whole thing in the Tron Legacy video. But Castor and Polydeuces were two brothers. Depending on the version of the myth, one of them or both of them dies. I can't remember. It really depends the version, but one of them dies, and they just can't be separated from each other. So Zeus and or another god, but mostly Zeus, usually gives them some sort of thing that allows them to, like, one of them is alive during the day and one of them is alive during the evening. Sometimes it's a curse, sometimes it's a blessing. It's kind of confusing, but basically they never get to see each other again, but they're like two sides of the same coin, intertwined. Anyway,
Mhm.
that's the
Yeah.
great myth background.
Yeah, and
And
it
by
kind
the
of
way,
shows, so.
Persona 3 is not a JRPG, it is a GRPG, the G standing for Greek. That shit is Greek as fuck.
All right.
That is a
yeah.
Greek video
As the
game.
resident expert, you would know. As the Cypriot, you would be
Yep.
able to declare that.
Yep.
I mean, all of their personas, all of their baseline personas are characters from like Greek mythos. You know, you have Io, you have Hermes, you have the dog. There's a
Yeah,
party member in
Cerberus.
Persona who's a dog. He's just a dog. Like they didn't do the Persona
He's
4 or
just a
5.
dog. He's
They
got
didn't
a
do the Persona
fucking
4 or
knife in his
5
mouth.
like nonsense where
open
they're
a
like
portal to the
wacky
dark
cartoon
dimension.
characters. He's literally a dog. He barks. That's the only way that he communicates is through dog noise. And
Iconic.
and
Shout
he
outs to
summons
the guy who does the
There's a
bark
guy that
noises for Koromaru,
voices
by the way.
the
He's
dog.
good.
Yeah. Shout outs to that guy. Good job.
and he summons Cerberus, you know, the hell
It's so
dog.
good.
It's great. He's
Look,
great.
if our viewers could take away anything, and I'm not sure, I don't think we've said this enough during this episode of the podcast. Persona 3 is a really good video game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of
Persona
the
3 is
few
really
really
freaking
good
good.
video games.
It is one of
One
the
of
best
the
games
few.
ever made. The best game ever made, actually.
Maybe.
I feel confident in saying that.
I gotta disagree.
Coincidentally, the
Pathologic's
best
the
game
greatest
ever
game
made.
Oh
ever
yeah,
made.
Pathologic.
Or Undertale. I'll accept either of these answers.
You shouldn't watch don't watch my video on Deltarune.
Do you like or dislike Deltarune?
I think that it's kind of a mess right now. Like there are parts of it
is
that I
though,
like.
isn't it?
There are parts of it that I really like. I like Susie. I like Noelle. I basically like Deltarune when it's being itself and not when it's being like an extended reference to Undertale.
Yeah, I really
So,
like Deltarune for its own story.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see where I can't judge it right now because there's so
You
much that just
can't,
isn't
no.
there. Like we're really in the first act of the story.
How
about to
many
enter
how
into the
many little
second act,
episodes
like-
is he gonna do?
So-
Like
is Mr.
5?
Fox up to
7.
5?
7.
I'm
7.
gonna, oh God, we'll be
7.
dead by then. Like,
Yeah.
what's
No,
the
actually,
point?
3, 4, and 5 are almost done. It's just that they want to release them all as a batch and have them.
Oh, are they
paid
gonna
on,
release
like,
all
1
of
and
them
2,
at
which are
once?
free.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Nice.
So 3, I believe, was done like December, was what they said.
Oh, so
I
they're
don't know
just
what
sitting on it, man.
I don't know. I don't know exactly. I don't know. They're stingy with updates. and
They
it's
must
very
be
nice.
like
like,
terrified that like
3
somebody's
was
gonna
in
leak
like
it.
post polished, like really late in things. So, like late last year, they were supposed to have some of them out last year, but didn't quite get it done, which is very understandable because Toby's dealing with they have a disability that affects their hands that makes it hard to work, and which is why they've brought in more and more people to help work on it.
They've got like
But-
more of a team now, right?
Yeah, so I think production on 6 and 7 will go faster than 3, 4, or 5, and 3, 4, or 5 are obviously going faster than 1 and 2. Or so I think we'll see Deltarune finished probably in the next 2 to 3 years, maybe.
That'd be good.
But like considering the size of the game and the complexity, I think it's reasonable, and the size of the team.
Yeah. I just got frustrated with it because I don't know. I don't like it when the game is just kind of constantly like winking and nodding at a fan base, and
Yeah.
I'm at odds with
Mhm.
it specifically because I generally am a fan of people who bully their fan bases, because I think fans are bad. I think it's bad to be fans of things.
The
And
thing
they deserve
is-
punishment. So
You
Like,
agree?
I think to a
You
degree,
agree
Toby
with Adam
does
Millard on
usually
this?
do that, which is why I think that long term, that's why I don't want to judge Deltarune right now, because I'm like, I think long term Toby's going to tell everybody the same thing he said in with the first game, which is that like, stop trying to dig for lore super far and ignoring what the actual themes of the work of art you're currently in are. Yeah, I have a very, very, very long Undertale script I've been writing with help from Ruby from Codex Entry slowly.
I'd be interested in seeing it.
Yeah, I can send you the current version of the script, though. It's like there's like chapters that are finished and there's chapters that are just gibberish notes. But part of it I discuss is just that like
gibberish
W.D. Gaster is the simplest metaphor of all time, and it's really silly how people keep trying to find some like lore, like no, okay, he's just a representation of a couple of different themes and like really simple ones. Like he literally went exploring. He went so far outside of the work of art trying to find meaning that he exited from it. He just completely disconnected from it, right? And
Yep.
then a bunch of weirdo fan people are obsessed with him.
Including
and like,
me.
Inside the work of art, there's a group of like weird fan people that you can find. But like, it's worth noting that most of the only ways of finding him are literally tearing apart the code of the game and like how. I don't know. It's just like,
Yeah.
It's about ignoring the work of art and digging too far, but it's also about like Gaster is a foil to aspects of Alphys, right? And Gaster, functionally dying or whatever happened to him, sort of represents what would happen to Alphys if you don't reach out, if you don't form community with Alphys. It's Gaster's a representation of isolation, of disconnection. And there's a couple of different ways you can read Gaster, but I think trying to take it purely as this like lore book you're supposed to solve and not a thematic work of art saying something is like ultimately part of what Undertale's meta commentary on fandom is.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
also my biggest shame.
Oh.
It's my biggest shame on
Dark
YouTube.
Fry made a parody of
I
when you were
made-
like
style
12,
analysis,
right?
like, when you were like
When I-
14?
When I was 15 years old, I made a parody of MatPat's video where he said that Sans is Ness.
Oh,
I made a parody video where I said that W.D. Gaster's Dr. Andonuts from Earthbound using Toby Fox's Earthbound hack as my evidence, and it got 250,000 views on YouTube.
That's just how it works on the old googly
Nothing
site.
I
Nothing
ever make will
It's just
get
how it
viewed as
works.
much as that video.
I am proud that I can say I worked on something that has more views than like a silly thing I've worked on. Thankfully,
It's
one of Jesse's videos.
I
Though.
don't
It's not
care
on my channel.
I don't care about views. It doesn't really matter to me, but
Look, Dark Fire, if that happened to me, I would
Literally-
care about views. Okay,
literally-
I would be
the
sad
only-
about that.
the
very
only
miserable.
the only reason I want one of my videos to pop the heck off is
just
because
There's just a specter looming over you.
I don't want
There's a
that
specter haunting Dark Fry.
Yeah.
to be my most viewed video.
I mean,
I am more than that. I have grown as a person. I
an
have
artist.
improved. I have grown. I have learned. And with that, we leave you.
Having
this episode of Video
grown
Gems.
and learned.
Yes.
well done.
Vivian, thank you so much for coming.
It was a delight.
So moral of the story is don't make game theory parodies.
Yeah,
Watch
I think that-
Vivian's videos and play
Oh.
Persona 3.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay, you fuckers out there. Okay, we did this with Chip, right? And now he's like he's got like 1 billion subscribers or whatever. Go to Vivian's channel and fucking watch
Yeah.
her videos.
By the way,
They're really
oh
good.
man,
Thank
Chip,
you.
can we
Very
talk about
nice
that? Can we talk
conversational
about that?
tone.
Hell yeah. I'm so happy.
Go
for
and
Chip.
subscribe to
I'm
the
going
channel.
to pretend. I'm going to pretend that Chip's success was because
It was all no.
he
I'm
was
not going to pretend.
on-
Darkfry.
on Video
I'm not
Gems.
going to pretend. Okay, it was us. Okay, it was us.
Listen, we were talking. This entire video was about Persona 4, right? We all agree that this was about Persona 4. You have to reach
Yeah.
out to the truth on this one, Darkfry. Reach out to the truth.
You're
Yeah.
so right, Vin.
You have to tell me the truth, or then or don't tell me the truth, and then we beat you up, and then you leave. I don't know what happens in that game. It's weird.
It's not. Don't worry about it.
Anyway,
also, you can just play
bye.
Persona 5. Oh yeah, bye.